What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today I am going to take a look at the processing, the handle course, how I achieve such great lap times. And obviously it's not just the steering wheel, but it's also the mindset, the mentality behind it, and some of the experience over time that I have achieved. So without further ado, let's load it up and walk through it. It's going to be a 10 lap, not necessarily the fast laps. It might get fast, it might most likely become a catastrophe. Like it is BeamNG Drive after all, so crashes are gonna happen one way or another. So we're using my Crown model number 19, the G Master 70. 70 stands for 70 seconds, or 1 minute 10 seconds. And so this car was built specifically for this very track in mind. It's very much like driving a go-kart. I'm just warming up the first lap and then might push it a little bit more. And that's the thing as well, it is a full-blown simulator that way. You do need to warm things up a little bit before you're really pushing things. You can of course set it up to be warmed up and race ready. But what's the fun with that? It's always good to warm up regardless. Whether the car needs it or not. The driver needs a little warm up as well. So with this video, as with everything, you'll see the inputs to the lower left corner. And here goes the first crash. Okay, we're starting this. I didn't focus there. Alright, first lap is gonna be a warm-up lap, and usually you wanna downshift to third again by that crest where the start line is, cause they're a little down and up on the bump there in the road. Going up the crest will actually upset the car enough, and even the gearbox, so you need to make sure that your shifting is where they need to be. And hopefully by now, anyways, I might have sorted out the sound issue with my microphone. No guarantee though, because I probably need to change the USB cable for it as well. But it does give away some statics, and I almost messed up again. That will not happen. I'll try to make sure that it's not gonna happen. So back to the topic, the way I approached this track. Well, for the most part it's really basic stuff, you know, like make sure you're done with your braking, and should you have to trail brake, make sure you know what you're doing. This car is very well optimized for that as well, if you need to. And I almost forgot to downshift there. So with this track I try to look as far as I can, even though I'm not using track IR or VR at the moment. And not sure whether this actually does support VR yet, but you could probably make it work. But the way you always want to do is find yourself some reference points, so that you go where you need to go through the corners. Be as smooth as possible, as always, with anything that you do in driving. And aim for your apex. And in this case there are not a whole lot of straights, so you want to make sure that your late apex is the fast one. So normally you would have it somewhere in mid-turn. In this case, not so much, not for every corner anyways. For the long corners like these, I try to go through those corners like a long continuous one. We're gonna have a couple of examples later here. Like this one, I try to negotiate as a long sweeping one. Same here. And especially here on the next left-hander. It doesn't matter if you cut a little bit, but don't make it a habit. Try to stay on the track as much as you can, at least with one pair of wheels, because it is pretty loose in the ground if you end up on the outside, especially when you need the grip the most. And it's a pretty good idea to just go a couple of laps in a row like this, at least 5 or 10 laps, like in this case, just to get the feel for it and build up your tempo gradually. So that way it doesn't jump from being a very fast lap to a very slow lap and so on. And you don't build up on bad habits either. In that case, it's very okay to go over the gravel, because you're always going to end up on the surface again, or on the road. And that right there is what happens when you take the corners too shallow. You'll end up having to steer way more than you necessarily would have to. And gradually up the tempo a little bit as you go, until you notice that you optimize your grip, and that's when you know you'll have it. And try to use as much of the road as you can. Don't be afraid of the barrier there, as long as you have the confidence, you'll be fine. Now I have no idea why it downshifted twice when I shifted it once. And that was 4th gear. I didn't pay attention to that until I was mid through the corner. But it worked. You just let go of the throttle a little bit and it'll turn in. And it downshift twice again. So yeah, what else happened? I finally have ordered the new power supply for the better steering wheel, so it'll be a thing of a past, hopefully, when that thing is up and running again. When it comes to the squeaking and the plastic sound in the background here from my backup steering wheel. And I'll also have a look into trying to change the cable for the microphone, because I think that could be the issue. Hopefully that's just the cable and not necessarily the microphone. It's a Blue Yeti Studio microphone, but it has a couple of years now. Worst case scenario, it's a connector, but yeah, like I said, sometimes it does rush extra power across the wire, and it makes a lot of static, strange noises, so you'll have to bear with me should that happen now, till I get that fixed at least. Another thing is to just do the track, like do the amount of laps that you set up, and don't think too much about it, how many laps you've done or your time. Just make sure you focus on the driving itself. Everything else is there for you to absorb, sort of, once you're done with everything. As you're driving, that's all you need to think of. Even if you have the numbers there in anywhere of the corners or wherever you might have it, just ignore it. Nice and smooth. Try to find your way, and it applies pretty much on any track. Try to find your way through the corners to the point where you can hit the throttle as early as possible and make it. And that's all there is to it, really. It's trying to figure out the equation. And that's why you shouldn't focus on anything else but the driving. So always ignore your racing position, ignore your lap time, ignore all that stuff. And it's good to have that when you need it, but for the most part you don't. You just need to make sure that you make it. Pay attention to my input there on the steering wheel. It's fixed, so whatever happens is that I fix the steering wheel as much as I can. Try to find a good fixture to it, or a fixed state where I don't necessarily overcorrect or undercorrect through the corners. I just fix it and keep it there. If I need to turn in more, I either let go of the throttle or trail brake a little bit, whether that's just into the corners or right after, because that'll dip the nose down a little bit and shift the weight forward, give you some extra grip when you need it. If you turn in too much, you just hit the throttle a little bit, as long as you're in the perfect line, and it'll understeer so that you make it through the corner at higher speed. Because if you go too slow, you'll turn in more, or you can downshift like I did there, if you have the room for it. So always get to know the car and get to know the track, and then you can explore those techniques, and only then. Because if you don't know the track, then it's pretty useless trying to implement any of these theories. And I'm losing focus again. But at least we haven't crashed yet, or well, we have, but not since. And here I go for the late apex, and then I hit the throttle. Because since I'm going for the late apex as well, that also means that I can hit the throttle as soon as I see the apex, because I'm coming in late, and that means that the angle is pretty shallow coming out of it. And that's also part why late apexing is pretty important to know how to deal with. Also good to mention is that I am using left foot braking for this, and it's particularly good, especially when you're using a sequential. And downshifting might be a good idea to implement there. Almost forgot. For that very particular corner, given how it looks, I always aim for the second apex, which is past the gravel. That's why I always cut through there or cut over it. A little sloppy down the technique, but we're pushing it a little bit here. So, alright, so there you have it, 10 laps. And what you're looking for is the consistency. Like you want to be maybe a second apart from lap to lap. And the consistency is definitely there from lap 6 up to lap number 10. So that's pretty good in terms of practicing. So you want to keep doing that until you feel confident enough to push it without making those occasional mistakes. And it takes a lot of patience, a lot of time, and allow yourself to give yourself that time as well. Don't try to rush it, or you just build up some bad habits along the way. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be able to catch up and follow what comes up next. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.